I bought this set of bedsides for $50 and flipped them for $360. If we haven't met yet, I'm Jade. I'm a solo mum flipping furniture in Australia, and I'm going to show you exactly how I do it. $50 is a little bit more than what I like to pay for a set of bedsides, but this particular shape and size sells so well in my area. I've done 2 sets exactly the same as this, and they've sold within hours. So I had planned to do a light refinish on this set, but I did hit a couple of snags along the way. My first step was to remove the handles, and for these I just had to tap them off with a hammer because they had been brad nailed in from the inside of the drawer. So I used my hammer, I jimmied them off. I kind of like to tap each way with these so that you can limit the amount of damage that may happen when you take them off. But as you can see from this next drawer that I tap out, I actually took a little piece of timber out as well. So you can see it sort of split there. So this was my first snag, having to do a little wood repair. It's no biggie though. If something like this happens, wood glue and clamps fix many things. So you can see I'm putting the glue in there, the tiny little sliver of timber that had come off as well, I'm gluing down. I wipe away the excess glue with a damp cloth and then clamp it into place. While that repair was drying, I moved on to cleaning the 2 pieces down. I'm using vinegar and water here, and this is one of those steps when you are flipping furniture that you can't skip, in my opinion. You need to start with a clean canvas, especially if you are going to be sanding this finish off. You don't want to be sanding any dirt, grease and grime that may be on the surface further down into the timber, because that will inhibit your finishes from adhering to the surface effectively later on. Next, it was time to remove the existing finish, and there's a few ways that you can go about this. You could use a tungsten carbide blade like I am doing now. You could jump in straight away with your sander to sand the painted finish off, or you could use a chemical-based stripper to remove it. And everyone has their personal preference. There's more than one way to skin a cat, but I prefer to use a tungsten carbide blade first before sanding because it does save me a lot of time. It's not as messy as using a chemical-based stripper, and it will work on a majority of finishes. Now, what I did find was whilst the carbide blade was taking the finish off in some areas, it wasn't taking it off as efficiently. And when I looked closer, the actual top of this was a little bit warped. There was some little waves in the timber. So it was taking off paint in some sections, not taking it off in others, and there was the potential there for the corners of the carbide blade to scratch the surface. So I took a quick beeline, I got 80 grit sandpaper out and my orbital sander and started sanding down the top. Normally, I wouldn't go straight in with 80 grit sandpaper on a timber piece because it does create a lot of micro texture or pigtail swirls in your work. But if you have a lot of dents or scratches in the surface or a warp, a little waver like I've got now, 80 grit sandpaper will remove a lot of timber fast. You do just need to make sure that the grades of sandpaper that you use after 80 grit are fairly close together. So you would go from 80 grit up to 120 and then have something in between, either a 150 grit or 180 grit before finishing with 240 grit sandpaper. This just ensures that any pigtail swirls or micro scratches that you did create with that 80 grit sandpaper are actually smoothed out and not just closed over. My final snag on this flip were these watermarks, and there's a couple of ways that you can get around watermarks. You can try to remove them completely with oxalic acid or a wood bleach. You can apply a paint wash to soften the overall look, or you can go with a deeper tone to create less contrast between the actual light timber and the watermark. I chose to go down the deeper timber tone path for this set because those watermarks were consistent throughout the 2 pieces. I did think that once a darker timber tone was applied, that it would give a really cool rustic farmhouse sort of effect. I gave the 2 pieces a thorough clean down with methylated spirits and water to remove all of the dust, and then I applied 2 coats of Fitty's tinted hard wax oil in the shade Whiskey with my spray gun. Fitty's tinted hard wax oil comes in a range of sheen levels and colours, is water resistant, stain resistant, food safe and toy safe, but a little bit goes a long way. There is 24 meters squared of coverage in a small 1 litre tin of this stuff. And given the right upkeep, this finish will actually last 8 to 12 years on high traffic areas. Once my hard wax oil coats were dry, I installed some antique brass handles. Here's a quick reminder of where we started on this set, and this is where we are now. It's the perfect mid-brown tone. Not too warm, not too cool, enough depth to mask those watermarks, but you still see that beautiful timber grain. I sold these within 2 hours of listing, and I would love to know what you guys think. So let me know in the comments, are these a nail or a fail?